Welcome to the Modern Elderwoman Podcast. We are here today to start a conversation, to assemble resources, and to build a community. This podcast is for empowered women in midlife and beyond who are preparing for or in the midst of a powerful third age. My name is Amy A. Palmer. I am your host and facilitator for our conversations. All women are welcome here. And we will be highlighting and spotlighting all the women over 45 who are living an untraditional lifestyle, whom I like to call blueprint breakers. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation. Would love to hear from you, love to hear your feedback, ideas, suggestions, or if you'd like to be part of a future episode, you can reach me via email at amy@amyapalmer.com. Saying farewell to the modern elder woman. Before I continue and jump into today's episode, I invite you to visit at community.blueprintbreakers.com, community.blueprintbreakers.com. Join us for our upcoming global launch party, which starts on Thursday, June 1st. So now let's say farewell to the modern elder woman. This is the last episode of the Modern Elderwoman Podcast, episode number 25. And it's been an exciting journey, a learning experience. It's opened up my mind, my heart. I mean, it's been a great experience along the way. So to answer some of your questions, what's going to change about the podcast? So what's going to change is the name. So we're changing the name. If you haven't heard by now, we are changing it to Blueprint Breakers, and I'll talk more about that in a second. So we're changing that. We're changing the frequency of episodes. I have been not completely consistent with the Modern Elder Woman, and we're definitely going to become more regular. I'm going to have a combination of guest podcast episodes and solo episodes where I'm discussing a particular topic or a particular area that I want to share with you. I'm also going to feature some listener podcasts. So any of you who want to join in and be an on-air contributor, have some conversations on air, we'll be doing that as well. We'll be changing how we engage with the community. Thus far with Modern Elder Woman, we've set up a Facebook group, which is great. It grew pretty quickly in the beginning, but getting engagement and getting people involved has been difficult. Not everybody's on Facebook or engages with it on a regular basis, et cetera. So that's why we did set up community.blueprintbreakers.com. So I can be able to stay connected to you, not through another platform, and you can continue to listen to the podcast on any platform that you prefer. But this makes it easier for me to be able to directly communicate, and you can reply directly to me as well. So those are some of the changes that are coming up. Plus, I'm just stretching and growing and trying new ideas and new things. And I'm open to anything that you want to contribute as well. What's going to stay the same is our mission to support and empower women in midlife and beyond, and in all the areas of their lives and all the priorities, whatever they choose those priorities to be. And the other piece that's going to stay the same is I will continue to highlight and spotlight the blueprint breakers. So those women who are leading a life outside the typical lifestyle blueprint. I want to make sure that every topic that we cover addresses that particular perspective, which isn't really the case when you look at other resources, when you're looking up information about menopause, when you're looking up information about retirement planning, when you're looking up information about health, about future, about travel, like so many topics do not address a woman over 40 who doesn't have a partner and or doesn't have kids. It's sort of like a really small afterthought, but generally it's not really addressed. So it's going to be addressed here. So as I say farewell to the modern elder woman, it's really more expressing gratitude to the modern elder woman. We started the first episode of this podcast, an episode called Words Matter, which is still our #1 ranked episode of our series. I invite you to go back and listen to that episode, even if you listened to it before. It covers a lot of ground around just why are we doing this to begin with, and it talks about words, and it talks about names and symbols and labels, and like there's no good words to describe women over 40, especially if they don't have kids and especially if they're not married. No good words in our language. So my mission in the beginning was to help to change that, and that's still part of my mission, and that's where the modern elder woman name came from. Elder woman itself, I wanted to take the word elder and embrace it and reframe it. And to me, it implies wisdom. It implies respect and like just a certain amount of gravitas with elder woman, obviously a female elder. Someone to look up to, somebody who's earned that life experience. So I really wanted to embrace that, and modern, putting modern on it to show that it's changing. It's not the same, and it's not the same for everybody. It's different from person to person. So that was my original intent. Many of you are with me. Many of you were already on that train, but the vast majority, like the public, the general public, they tend to have an immediate negative reaction to the modern elder woman. It conjures up images of old age, and of course that's part of our conditioning. That's part of what has been ingrained in us. So I get it. And I do still want to help reframe it and help turn it around, but I can't do that if the name of my podcast repels people. I want to attract people. I want to pull you in. So I mean that's the first step to it. But I want to share gratitude for just what I experienced, what these last several months have been like. I've learned so much about so many topics through the amazing people that I've met, the amazing people that I've had the privilege of interviewing. I want to pull up some of my notes on that right now. It never would have it never would have taken off the way that it has if it wasn't for the women that I met through this journey. And I definitely want to take a second and highlight some of the women that I never would have met if it wasn't for this. So these amazing women who are all experts in their fields that I would not have met, and I would not have the connection and the relationship that I have with them now if it wasn't for the modern elder woman. Naomi, Carrie, Gail, Akiko, Jeanette, Karen, and Jan. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your expertise. Thank you for the support of the podcast. I'm looking forward to doing a rebroadcast of some of our most popular episodes from the Modern Elder Woman later on this summer. But my world has been broadened by these women, which has been amazing. So as we say farewell to the name and express deep, deep, deep gratitude for the experience, I want to talk a second about blueprint breakers and how that is evolving. I embrace the blueprint breaker spirit, and I am still a modern elder woman and will remain a modern elder woman. But for the blueprint breakers, it started out, my intention was that it was specifically women over 45 who do not have a partner and or do not have children. Because that's who I represent, that's who I am. and I wanted to help more women like me. However, that term has broadened. As I have explained where the blueprint breaker concept came from, I talked about the fact that when we're little girls, we're handed a lifestyle blueprint, right? We are told this is what you need to do to have a happy, fulfilled life. Follow these steps. Go to school, go to college, meet a man, fall in love, get married, have kids, preferably more than one, have a great career while doing all that, be a great mom, do all the things, be a great wife, hopefully someday be grandparents, and your life will be wonderful and you'll fulfill your purpose. And that's what I had a problem with. Because I realized that a lot of my grief, a lot of my struggle, a lot of my desperation in my earlier years, in my 20s, 30s, even into my 40s, came partly from my own sense of loss and over like what I viewed myself as not having. It was partly that, but a huge contributor was it was partly because I was letting down the expectations of others, nobody in particular, just society in general. I wasn't fulfilling my purpose. I wasn't a full person. I wasn't a full woman because I did not follow this blueprint. And so I ultimately want the message to trickle down to young women as early as we can get, that there are many paths in life. And you can take, and you can take a number of different routes to having a happy and fulfilled life. You do not have to follow this particular blueprint, and it's okay. We love you. You are worthy. You deserve happiness and fulfillment and all the things. Like my vision for the future is that little girls and babies, that they're going to know that there's multiple paths that they could potentially take. And so the blueprint breaker term has just expanded for me, as the more women I spoke to, and I was initially exploring specific blueprint breaker paths, I found out that the paths broke off into even further sections, and that there were women who on the surface, it looks like they followed a traditional path. They're doing all the things according to the original lifestyle blueprint, but they're also breaking it in many ways. And there's still times where they feel other. They feel that they've been othered. They feel outside the norm, or they feel judged for the decisions or the paths or the options that they take. So for that reason, I just wanted to broaden it a little bit. It's all about, there is more than one way to do life. If we can all agree on that and help get that message to trickle down to our youngest girls, that's the whole point of where we're headed now. So it feels like, as we express gratitude and farewell to Modern Elderwoman, it feels like this is more a new awakening, a rebirth, not a winding down. So I invite you. I thank you. I thank you for all of your support, everything that you've done for the Modern Elderwoman thus far. And I invite you to buckle up for this journey ahead. Come join us, community.blueprintbreakers.com, for our celebrations all month long. Have a wonderful week and keep on breaking and rewriting and creating your own blueprints.